Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to paint these pumpkins using Derwent Graphitint pencils, and all the media I used here was in the Derwent Graphitint set of 24. Originally, I thought I'd try to squeak by with a 12 set, but I really needed some other colors that were in the 24 set. Now, the Graphitint pencils only come in 24 colors. I mean, that's the largest range they have, but if you don't have them and you want to use watercolor pencils, that is totally fine. And if you'd like to paint this with me in real time, I'm going to have a free Michael's class in November, and I'll have all the details for that in the video description, and you can sign up for free, and then when the time comes, paint with me live, and it will be a fun project. We'll also have a replay on the Michael's YouTube channel afterwards if you couldn't make it live. Also, for the month of October, I wanted to let you know my Learn to Draw with Lindsay course is 40% off. I will have the link to that in the video description as well with the discount code if you would like to check that out. You can see how beautiful these colors are once you add water to them. A little bit about Graphitint pencils. They are essentially water-soluble graphite with a hint of color. And the color is quite bold, and once you add water to it, you really get to see the full breadth of the color. But if you wanted to use a water-soluble graphite and then glaze over with some ink or watercolor, that would look equally as beautiful. So use what you have, and approximate my instruction to what you have on hand. But when I ask what should I use for my next Michael's class for Derwent, people are always saying try the Graphitint. So I wanted to make sure I got a Graphitint project in for you this year. You can do a kind of overall wash of color by just kind of lightly shading with the Graphitint pencil, and then when you add the water, look at how much color is there. I kind of like to add water as I go because it can be quite surprising and startling how much pigment you get when you go and add the water. So if you do that at the end, you may have way more than you anticipated, or you may have way less. But I find generally with the Graphitints, I got a lot more than I was bargaining for. You can also lift up with water if you need to get a highlight back, and the white pencil that's in the 24 set actually does a pretty good job at giving you an opaque highlight. The paper I'm using here is a mixed media paper. It's actually the Art Creation mixed media paper by Talons. I bought a pad to try it out because it's a new product, but I have to say it's about the same as like the Canson XL or other mixed media papers that are kind of white labeled that I've used. So any smooth mixed media paper, smooth watercolor paper, like it's also called hot press, or really any sturdy drawing paper that can accept a light wash will be suitable for these pencils. If you have like the Blick sulfate drawing paper, that would work fine. And this is a great one to do in your sketchbook if you have no need for a large pumpkin painting. Now this is 9 by 12, but I realized after painting this that I'm going to need to go a little smaller for the hour-long live class. But of course the replay will be available and worldwide, so if you wanted to work larger and just pause as you go, you totally can do that. The live Michael's class will be available to folks in the USA and Canada. I don't know why they have it restricted, probably because that's where their stores are located, so that's where their website is reachable. I don't know, but the replay will be available for everyone afterwards. So I didn't want to leave anybody out. Just wanted to give you that information so you don't get disappointed if you try to sign up. I love the variety of colors in the Graphitint line. I bought my first set of Graphitint. I bought the 24 set when they first came out many years ago, and I just thought it was such a pretty variety of colors. And in fact, if you like to do plein air work, if you live in New England, it's like New England colors. That's all I can explain it to. Like if you like to paint, if you think about going to the coast and painting tidal pools, those are the colors that are in the Graphitint range. They're not vibrant. There's no yellows. So like for anything that's approximating a yellow, I'm either using a very light earthy brown, or I'm using a very, very light green. So that's probably the downside, or the missing piece in this. I would say, oh gosh, wish there was a yellow, but it may be because the graphite turns yellows green. I'm not sure. But other than that, I find it a very pretty range, and I find that I can get a pretty good variety of values here. Now, because it's a graphite product though, it can be a little difficult to photograph or show on camera how dark the darks get. Like the black, because it's got the graphite in there, wants to reflect, kind of like if you're doing graphite. So you may want to spray it with fixative to get that full depth of values when your work is done. I just sprayed it with some workable fixative. You could even use like a cheap hairspray you don't have a fixative and you want to maybe keep it from smudging. I find with the pencils, I don't have an issue with them transferring to the facing page in my sketchbook, but if I use the Graphitint pan paints, I do have more of a smudging issue. So if you want to use a Graphitint pan paints, I think that would work well. Obviously, the application is going to be a little different, but if you have these pencils and maybe they've been sitting on a shelf gathering dust, grab them out. It's perfect time of year to use them. Those muted tones are just ideal for autumn. This set has a couple really pretty almost like tealy blues, and that's what I'm putting here in the background. I did the kind of an overall shading of the teal color, and then I went around the edges with a little bit of a darker blue. You can see like right here. I will say when you wet them, they lift up and blend really well, but they also dry pretty quickly on this paper, so you do end up with a texture. And I decided at the end I was going to just lean into the texture and let it be a little bit, what's the word, kind of a plastery looking, or like a kind of a plastery looking effect, because I knew I wasn't going to get a really smooth effect with these. They're different than Inktense. I always thought it was kind of like the Inktense like pigments in that graphite that is how they were made, but I'm not so sure now because you can lift it up pretty easily, or it could be the graphite that's making it liftable. I'm not sure, but they do lift up pretty easily. I'm always a big fan of mixing your media, so if you're not getting everything you need from one product, go ahead and grab something else and add to it. But for these Michael's classes, I try to keep the supply list fairly limited, so the only supplies really are the mixed media paper, brushes, and the set of 24 graphitints. Michael's does tend to be kind of high on their art supply prices, so if somebody is buying their supplies right through the supply list, I want to make sure that it's not an overwhelming list. And sometimes that can't be avoided, but I also wanted to see what can this 24 set accomplish? What can we do here? And give people some ideas on how they can use this product a little bit more, because there's nothing worse than buying a supply for a class and then not knowing what you can do with it afterwards. So I feel like we go through a lot of techniques in this, from using it wet on wet, wet on dry, layering up, doing some dry shading, all of that to get the most versatility out of this product. And I know it's a pretty simple still life. You're probably thinking, pumpkins, Lindsay, really? Is that what we're going to paint? But I really think it's kind of pretty when it's done. And if you wanted to go and add some stamping or collage or, other mixed media goodness to it afterwards, you absolutely can. But again, I didn't want to do that for the Michael's class. For one, I only have an hour. And for two, I have such a random assortment of stuff that I've collected over the years. Chances are the collage ephemera you would find would be much different than what I had. And I just wanted to keep it more accessible for people. So, I would call it beginner level, but I do tend to go kind of quick. But I am going to go with a smaller size for the live class, so I'm not rushing. I felt like with the 9x12 I did the last time, I was rushing kind of quickly, but people caught up. I was really pleased with the results I was seeing in class. But I don't want people to feel like it's a race against the clock to create. There you can see how you can lift up the colors. I lifted it up on that little stem in front because I had gotten everything a little too monotone. Here I'm lifting out some bright highlights before I go in with the white, because I didn't know if the white was going to work. A lot of times, white water-soluble pencils are garbage. They're just not opaque enough. So I will tend to use them dry when I'm going to use them. So to give it its best possible chance, I went through and lifted up extra pigment before I went in with the white pencil. But the white pencil, used dry anyway, was quite effective. I didn't add water to this because I didn't want to wash it away, and also I didn't want to lose my detail. And I found that this was a really great way to grab some of those edges and give some definition, give some volume, so these pumpkins look nice and plump and round and heavy, because that's something you want to depict in your drawings is weight and volume. And that's something I see often lacking. You'll see these flat drawings. It's like they're just outlines colored in, and you want the shading. You need the values. You need the edges. You need all of these elements in order to get that volume in. Now I'm going in with the black pencil. Now you can kind of see it catching the light and reflecting the light and not looking dark at all. But I figured once I added a little bit of fixative to this, it would help it look. It would kind of take the sheen off a little bit. It would kind of mattify it. You can also use things like matte varnishes and dulling sprays and whatnot to get a very similar effect. Because I think this is quite lovely, and I might actually tear this out and put it in a little frame and put it on my mantle for, spooky season. I don't know. I think it's kind of pretty. I like these vintage colors. So, just keep that in mind. You could use, yeah, if you use like a matte spray on that, that would help kind of tame down that reflectability of the graphite. And plus, I think if you matted it and put it in a frame, a lot of those reflections would just kind of go away because the light would bounce off the glass in your frame and not necessarily off your surface. So I think all those options would work. And I think this is looking quite nice. Although I was kind of frustrated as I was doing it because it was taking me time to fill in on that size of paper. And when I felt like I had a nice blend, a nice smooth like shading, and then I went to add water, it would kind of like glom it up a little bit. And then I was like, I don't know about this. But then at the end, looking at it, I kind of like how it looks a little rustic, you know, and I still think I have the volume there. And I'm adding in some dark greens because there were splotches on the pumpkin reference photo I'm going by. But, you know, I don't think I'm going to use it because I went so far off the reference photo that because the colors I had wasn't represented in the pencils I was using, that I'll probably end up using my my actual artwork as the reference piece for this. And yeah, just keep going until you're happy. If you don't like your painting, you're not done yet. That's probably the biggest piece of advice I would give somebody, especially when you're working in a medium that can be a little bit slower, like colored pencil. Water-soluble pencil is a little faster, but I would say if you're not happy, if it doesn't feel done, if you're not satisfied, keep going. What have you got to lose? If you stop a drawing at a point where you're not happy with it, and you just close the book and you're like, I'm done. Well, that's fine. If you're really sick of it, you could be sick of it. But I would say you got nothing to lose at this point. Just keep on going. Keep on going until you end up with a result you're happy with. And I mean, sometimes I will bail on a project, especially if I don't need it for something. With this, I needed a project for this. I'm like, well, I'm going to see how this will go. I'm going to push it and push it and push it. And if at the end I don't like it, I don't like it. That's fine. But my goal is to get something that I was happy with. Now I'm almost done here, but I felt like the background needed a little bit more oomph. So I'm taking that teal color and I'm going another layer on top to see if I can just push the color a little bit, because blue is an opposite of orange. And we've got those orange and yellow toned pumpkins. If I get a nice blue in there, that's going to push that, the orange, red, yellow, it's going to push those warm colors towards the viewer a little bit more. It's going to give them a little more volume. It's going to give them a little more presence. So you can also use color theory to get the effect that you're looking for when maybe your values aren't dark enough, or you're not getting enough contrast that way. Using complementary colors that are across on the color wheel will help pump those colors. And also using cool and warm as opposing colors. Cool colors recede, warm colors advance. So just by putting this opposite cool color in the background, it's going to help let my pumpkins be more prominent. And there you have it. I'll show you a photo here where we've got it all fixatived and scanned, and you can see those nice vibrant colors. And if you'd like this, I hope you will join me at Michael's in November. Details in the video description for a free live class. And if you want to learn how to draw, check out my Learn to Draw with Lindsay class during October for 40% off. And I'll see you in either of those places or in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. Until next time, happy crafting.